Come on, Twitch. Oh, that was the new tab button rather than reload. There we are. Now we're up and running. I'll tell the world about it. Streaming game dev. Scripting the boss sequence. Paste. And here. And no, that's the wrong button. There we are. Once again, Mastodon is not really working. I keep changing the bookmark to what it tells me to, and it never works. So that's fun. All right, so that is it for notifications. Let's go ahead and get started. So what we're doing today is we're taking all of this stuff that we've created over the past couple of weeks, and we're going to make it so that it works correctly for the boss sequence. And that means we're going to turn things on and off as the player moves through the stage and, of course, as the boss explodes. But there is one thing we have to do before we even get started, and that is to check whether or not the on-boss exploded will work if a device is turned off, if this is turned off. See how this happens on Awake? I think that if it's disabled, Awake doesn't play. Awake doesn't happen. Let me just go ahead and double check that. Unity function on scene enter even if disabled. Something like Awake that runs even when disabled. Awake is called regardless of whether or not it's enabled. Okay. But it doesn't appear that that's the case. Alright, so even though Awake is supposed to run, even when it's disabled, it doesn't. But instead what we'll do is we'll just make it the initializer, the constructor, which I think I just need to say is a public, like that. Right? Yeah. So that way we can get it to work even if it's disabled, which is going to be useful to us since we're going to be moving through this and turning things on and off, and I don't want to have to worry about it. And where did I put... sorry, getting arranged on the other screen here. You can't even see it. There we go. We didn't accidentally hit play. Okay. So, this is the boss room, and basically you fly in from there, and you go in and around, and by the time you get here, this outer room is going to be turned off. But there are some things we have to do in order to make it feel right. One of the things we're going to have to do is replace this room here, because this runner room hull has two different variants, runner room and runner room 1. Runner room 1 is the flaming hell variant, and runner room is the default. So we're just going to name them post boss and pre-boss. And we'll just turn on pre-boss and turn off post-boss. There we go. And what we're going to want to do is have it so that post-boss gets turned on and vice versa when the boss fires. So here's the boss sequence. And we'll just add it to the tip here, to the end. And we'll say runner room pre-boss and runner room post-boss. This will be game object set active false and game object set active true. And that should work even though that room is disabled, because we're setting an interior object to true or false. So that should work. But there are a couple more things I need to do. One is that I need to make it so that when you're flying through this room, the outside turns off when you reach a certain point. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add some gates, some collider gates right here, so that as you fly through this tunnel, you will turn off the exterior. And we need to do that because the exterior actually cuts through the boss room, and that would be a problem. Also, the exterior is, has some effects tied to it and stuff, so it's better to turn it off if we're not using it. So to do that, we're just going to select this object here, and we're going to add a cube, like that. And that's a little bit large. We'll go ahead and shrink it down a bunch. There we go, like that. Make sure it's wide enough, though. If it's not wide enough, then the player might accidentally fly around it, which would be a problem. And basically, we're going to turn off the mesh renderer. In fact, we don't even need it at all. We're just going to remove it. And we'll leave it as just a box collider. And the thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a box collider responder, which should be in here, a trigger responder of some kind. Trigger reaction. There we are. And that should work. Now, one thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to make sure that this is on ignore raycast, so the player doesn't accidentally scan it and it doesn't count as a nav element. But that's a decent way to do it. And what this is going to do, too many. What this is going to do is it's going to turn on the military scanner. I think that's this, yeah. Set active, true. And what we're going to want to do is duplicate this cube. We'll call this trigger exterior on. And we're going to duplicate this and move it this way. Nope, that's just a rotate. There we are. Move it up, maybe tilt it. And we're going to call this trigger exterior off. And that's just going to be our gate for turning the exterior on and off. While we're here, we might as well link the interior to the same setup. So to do that, we are going to grab trigger exterior on, and we're going to turn off these elements back here. And that's going to be the reactor core and this tunnel entrance. We're just going to turn both of these off. And so to do that, we will go back to the collider. There it is. Come on. It's not letting me click on the collider. What a pain in the ass. It's right there, but it's not triggering. I guess you're not allowed to click on bounding volumes, so we're going to have to manually select it. Oh well. Since we have two of those, we'll need two events, and it's just going to be the reactor core and the tunnel entrance 1, which we're going to rename tunnel entrance interior, or tunnel interior. And then this one will be tunnel exterior. And these are also obviously set actives. But these get turned off rather than turned on. And we're going to have the same setup here, but obviously vice versa. Boom. And that should allow these things to turn on and off with whatever we need. And what we can do is actually turn off the reactor core and the tunnel interior right off the bat so that we don't have those showing when we are looking at the exterior. Oh, I forgot to turn the hull back on. Right. So there's a couple of things we have to do to get this to work. First off, we have to turn the hull on, obviously. Second off, we have to move the whole boss container so that the player can actually get into it. And that means that we're going to want to rotate it around and bring it down. So that the player can see it. Oh, that's behind it. Darn it. So like that. That should be relatively visible, I think. I think we're a little bit too close. We'll just back it, move it. There, that should be pretty good, I think. Let's try it. Oh, I turned the sun off. Sorry, I got to turn the sun back on. 0.8 is what the sun's light is. There we are. So I'll adjust the actual positioning a little bit more later, but basically the idea here is that you should realize pretty quick that this is the only thing of interest. I think what I'll do is add in some orange lights or something, but it should be okay. I mean, this is pretty clearly an entrance. And then when you come down into here, you get this giant room full of blue rays and debris. And as you move in this direction, you will hopefully see that there's only really one way to go. And you'll go there. Oh no! The camera just went off the rails. Okay, so I think what happened now is something got turned off that I wasn't expecting. Or we bounced or something? Where are we? We bounced. I'm not sure what just happened. Both of these are set to trigger, right? Yeah, so... try that again. I gotta clean up this exterior shot though. It's not very pretty. I mean, it's not supposed to be pretty, but it needs to look a little bit more convincing. That's fine. I can clean it up. But that's, I can only clean it up if things don't teleport around, and we are having a problem with this. Presumably, it's the trigger exterior on that's causing us the issues. So, when we go this direction, the trigger exterior on shouldn't even fire. Because I mean, it'll fire, but it won't do anything, because all the things that are trying to turn on are already on, and all the things that are trying to turn off are already off. But, what it does is teleport us. How is it doing this? What's going on here? Because this is the trigger exterior on. And it doesn't actually have any... It's a military scanner remnant. Military scanner reactor core. Oh, the remnant's the problem. I'm sorry. I turned on the wrong thing. I don't want to turn on the remnant. I want to turn on the hull. The remnant actually has a collider attached to it. Which is huge. And obviously what happened is it just decided to shunt us to the outside of that collider. Alright, now this should work. Making basic mistakes. Now to make this exterior shot better, I think what I'll need to do is add some detailing to this front edge and a couple more things like that. But this particular crossing point is really bad, so I'm going to have to fix that. So there was a collider there that was causing us issues, and it's this one. And you might not have noticed it, but basically the problem is that when we were passing near that collider, our navigation marker was hitting the collider and stopping. And that's why that golden ball was stuck to the edge of the entryway rather than continuing to move with us. So it's just because I forgot to change that to ignore raycast mode. So now the golden ball should follow us all the way down, yep, without getting stuck on anything. And this should work fine. I don't think we're going to have any more problems, aside from slamming into this at full speed here. Oh, that's right. I still have the boss set to explode automatically. Let's go ahead and not have that happen. So basically what happened is as soon as we turned the boss on, it automatically fired. So we're going to want to bring the stage down to 0 and turn off the fire on play debug. That way, we'll actually get the experience we're looking for, rather than having it just randomly explode halfway to the boss. So, just a couple of adjustments to make, and then an ending screen, and then I'll be able to release this. For the next thing I'm going to make, it's going to be people related, and I think it's going to be a base building game, a people-centric base building game. Because I like base building games a lot, and I'm really good at modeling base modules. Really good is perhaps a little bit too excessive. I'm best, out of all of the things I can barely model, base modules are the best. So, I think that's very likely to be what I do after this game, but this game probably still has another month of work on it, I think. There's some cleanup that I want to do, but basically, this is the experience of the boss, and you can see how it feels like it's just like chaotic and messy, and it may take you some time to realize that you need to go this way, but there's like lights and stuff, so it should pull you in. And then you can see the hallway as you come out, which is just fine. Oh, no, crash! Alright, let's go down. I saw a hint of some red while I was flying around. Could I think the camera might have clipped through the walls. Making the camera not clip through the walls might be more trouble than it's worth. I'll have to think about it. Here's the boss room. Let's go ahead and do the boss fight and see whether or not it feels okay. As it should be clear, all you really need to do is get close, and then your ship takes care of the work. And basically the challenge is a simple piloting one where you don't want to accidentally bump into things or anything. There we go. One down. Let's watch it explode. Oh, that one is not the explosive. That one's not close enough to actually hit it. It's the next one it'll hit. Boom. Good, good. So now let's go and take care of it on the other side here. Try not to get hit by the fire suppression system. I'm using way too much engine, and the fire suppression system is really throwing me off. Ugh. To be honest, this is just about the right amount of hard at the moment. It doesn't feel like it's just ridiculously difficult like it used to be, but it's not so straightforward. It's just annoying enough, I hope. And that should explode. Did I just miss it? I just missed it, didn't I? Well, unfortunately, that means that it is going to take quite a while for that one to come around, so we'll just get to working on the next one, which is right there. And I think it's just 3. I think the fourth one is... yeah, the fourth one is already blown, which we didn't really see because I knew what I was doing and went a little bit too fast. Why aren't you grabbing it? Darn it. One more time. Whoa, too fast. Way too fast. Oh, it hit. It exploded. Okay. All I gotta do is grab that one element, but now it's moving fast enough that it might be faster to go the other direction. Alright. Let's get this boss done fight done with one more little piece of action here. Here it comes. Shouldn't really have any issues getting this to work. Just have to get in close and let the ship do all of the labor. Why didn't it fire? Oh no. There shouldn't be any difficulty with this, but for some reason I am having a hell of a time. I think that I am using the unupgraded tentacle arm, which means it's half the length of the one the player would probably be using at this stage, which is definitely making this much harder than it should be, but I thought I was close enough. I felt like I was close enough. Come on, go, 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 go. Oh man, did I screw this up again? Those fire suppression elements are exactly as annoying as I wanted them to be, which means they are as annoying as hell. All we have to do is get close. Oh, it's moving so fast, it's really quite a challenge, but... Can you believe this? Why is it moving so fast that the arm physically can't grab it? Is it just a constraint of the arm tracker that it can't grab objects that are moving that fast? I think it might be. Let's go ahead and change the speeds that we're rotating, just because that's being a little bit too fast and a little bit too obnoxious. So we're just going to make it go a little bit fast and not quite as bad. But while we're out here, we might as well do some work on trying to tidy up this exterior. One of the things I want to do is change this particular cleft. You can see how it's kind of garbage. There's all sorts of polygons just kind of floating around everywhere. So we're going to try and deal with that. And I think that the easiest way is to select this hull plate and move it out, and then rotate it. Gotta go local here. And what we're going to want to do, I think, is put something right here. And the question is whether we have anything that would seem to be the right sort of mesh just to hide there. Like, you know, the way you might put a trash can on top of a bad Z-clip. If we take a look at our prefabs, we do have a couple of things, like this cable box. Let's see whether or not I can make this cable box work well. So I don't really know where the cable box is relative to anything else, but it looks like it's right there. Let's go ahead and move it up. Did I just move it out? I moved it out. Move it up. Thank you. And then back. And let's see whether or not... there we are. Let's see whether or not this cable box can be made to fit that corner. And it could just be the cable box. I could delete the cable. But I think the cable is worth having as well. Let's go ahead and try and do both. In actuality, it might be good if it's the other way around, now that I'm thinking, because having the cable taper off into deep space might be perfect. Let's go ahead and try that. And then we'll just move it into position. Yoink. And basically, we want this top cable box to hide our gilt here. not really sure that this is going to work. One of the issues is that it's got a different material, but I think, you know what, I think that's probably okay. Let's go ahead and just see if it works. Yeah, so you can sort of see that there's now something sticking up, but the problem is that sticky uppy thing isn't set up with a collider, so I can fly straight through it. I'll have to add a box collider to make sure that that doesn't feel totally unconvincing when I fly straight through it. It doesn't really work. Alright, so that was a waste of time. It's not really the right shape, so we're not going to use it. We could use a coolant rod container. Let's go ahead and see whether or not we can stick a coolant rod where the sun doesn't shine. So basically, the coolant rods are built specifically for the player to grab them and move them around with the mechanical arm on the player's ship. But we're not going to be using them for that here. What I'm going to try and do is salvage the containers. And the question is whether I want the plus-shaped containers or whether I want the eye-shaped, the magnifying glass-shaped container. And I guess either way, what I don't want is the rest of the coolant rod. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. We just want the mesh. We don't want any of the functionality. Yeah, there we are. That's good. Now let's try and move it into position and just see whether or not any of these are roughly the right shape. I think that we'll just zero out the rotation. Okay, so when I zero out the rotation, it does not zero out to flat. And the reason for that is because this hole isn't actually on a flat plane. The hole is on an edge. So what's flat for us is not quite flat. That's fine, though. We'll approximate. So the question is whether or not some variant of this will look reasonable. Should just put a big fat X on it. I think that might be better than having this magnifying glass. Yeah, let's go ahead and just put a big fat X on it. So let's drop that out, delete here and here. And now we've got a big fat X, like a Band-Aid directly on our terrible, terrible topology. And what I'm going to do is rotate this 180 so that it's got the bulge on the far side rather than the near side. That will help it to prevent it from feeling like the player is going the wrong direction, I think. All right, let's go ahead and see how that feels when I hit play. Well, the added color is definitely a benefit. I think I'm going to have to make this front edge all the way around. I'm going to have to make it more decorated. This isn't decorated enough. It doesn't really feel like it actually exists, so we'll do that next. But for now, I think that this is not too bad. All right. And there's the sun turning off. And then we move through into the boss area. And once again, we are going to just come in way too fast, and that's expected. I think that most players are not going to go slow enough to get through here without bouncing off things. Yeah, that camera is a little bit pop-outy. I have to think about whether or not I care. For today, I do not care. I might come back some other time. Alright, we got through that room, and now we are in the final tunnel area. And it's a little bit too fast. Crash. And we are in the boss room. Hooray. Come on, move your ass. And it just smashed, and now it's going the other way. We'll wait for its friend to come along and finish that off. I think I still need to add one more boss event on the way out. I think we're one boss event short. But we'll see. I'll see how it feels as we race towards the exit after dealing with this. So here are the things that I need to grab. Let them scoot past. Grab it. Didn't quite make it, did I? Dang. If I stick close, I might be able... There we are. Good, good. And there it goes. It's going to take a while for that to explode, though. We'll just grab one more here. Oops, I got hit by a stray burst. And now I'm way the heck down here. That's fine. What we've got is some... that's the one that starts busted, I think. So let's go chase one that's already ready for us here. There, I can go ahead and grab that one. Let's go ahead and make sure that we grab it after the fire port, the exhaust port. These are a little bit more aggressive than I might actually want. I might turn them down a touch, just because they trigger really, really aggressively, and that's probably too much. Oh no, it's going the wrong way. It must have just exploded. Darn. Okay, well, I think that we can just cut through near the top. Yeah, that should be fine. Oh no, shoot. This arm is really short. I hope the player remembers to upgrade theirs. Well, that's a little infuriating. Alright, so the fire alarm is a little bit too aggressive. I'm going to want to change that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have it turn on slower, and I'm also going to turn down the sensitivity. And that should help quite a bit in terms of being less shit. What, that didn't actually... Darn it. It's like 1 centimeter short of actually being properly... Darn it. I was hoping that I could get in underneath. Alright, well, since we're here, let's go ahead and refactor some of those so that it's a little bit... Wow, it is dark as hell. Hold on, gotta turn on some lights. A cloud passed across the sun. Alright, so here in the interior, here it is. just turn it on for a bit and take a closer look here. This is the interior. Let's go ahead and turn off the hull so we can see it. And basically, what we've got is a whole bunch of fire alerts here. These reactor room pylons have ice pipes attached to them, and the ice pipes are what we're talking about. If we look at the military scanner reactor core, what we do is we turn on 5 of the 6 ice pipes here. But what we actually probably want to do is bring those down into this element. Unfortunately for us, you can't drag and drop, you can't select, you can't copy. It's quite infuriating that they didn't bother to make these actually do anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to move 4 of them down here. And then we're going to move 2 of them to the top. So the 4 that we're going to move are just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4. And to do that, we're just going to need to drag them in one by one. Really nothing else to it. And you notice that I skipped 1, so it's not 4 in a row. It's, you know, a couple here, a couple there. And that's on purpose. But basically, can I drag it when it's... No, when it's selected, I still can't drag it. So basically, we're going to want to leave 2 of them here. And it's going to be the first one, which is here. And the third one, this one here, I believe. Yes, these are the ones that we're going to want to set to enabled. So we just turn the player heat on to enabled. And what we're going to do is this one starts enabled, but I'm going to turn that off. So you start with none of them turned on, and then 2 of them turn on, and then the rest of them turn on. And that should be a little bit better for us than what I was doing before, which was really infuriating. But what we're going to want to do is just turn down their sensitivity a bit. It's a little bit aggressive. And here you can see the base range is 1200, and we've got this heat response curve that looks like this. So to make this heat response curve a little bit nicer, we're just going to make it into a linear curve for all of them. And that will be a little bit more forgiving. It might be not forgiving enough. We'll find out soon. But let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's turn everything back to the way it should be. And while we're here, let's go ahead and remodel the exterior hull here. Just so that we can have some nice elements to it. Now, one of the issues we have is that the military scanner hull has a mesh collider that is convex, which means that if I wanted to remodel the front edge of this, I would have to add a lot of extra detail work. And I think what we'll do is we will make that its own mesh. There's no reason for it to be the same mesh. So we're going to go in here and we're going to grab all of the faces along this set of planes. So here and here, these faces. And we'll go ahead and add in some debris here as well. But the thing about this is that we actually don't want these. This is not what we're actually after. We just need it for a moment so that we can get the bases up and running again. So we're going to go ahead and call this military scanner hull front. And this part here is the problem. We don't actually want that debris. But I don't believe that we saved any of the originals. What we did do, however, is save the same loop. So if we take a look here, we've got a whole bunch of loops, and they're not really round in the back or the front. They're kind of oblong, as you can see. I thought we had saved some of these, but I don't... Oh, there it is. Is that it? No, that's not it. I guess I didn't. Well, that was a shame. So I don't actually have the intact elements here, which is kind of obnoxious for the sake of modeling details, but I guess we'll give it a shot. And basically what we're going to do is just use a deselect. Boom. And we're going to add in some details right here. So if we use an extrude and then we bring it in just a touch, we can then scale it according to the individual origins and bring in some elements like this. But the problem is that this isn't enough detail to really get any sort of fun going. I think all we really need to do, now that I'm thinking about it, is just UV unwrap it and use a different material. That way I can get it to work. Unfortunately, the UV unwrapping isn't going to be as nice as I want. So let's go over here into the UV unwrapper here. You can see how we've got 3 arcs. What we really, really want out of our UV unwrap is like every set of these needs to be itself repeating. So we don't really want it to be properly unwrapped. What we really want it to do is just to repeat the same UV elements over and over. Unfortunately, I don't know how to get Blender to do that. So if we select it, there is the option to unwrap like that, and I guess that's probably our best bet. So let's go ahead and select everything, and deselect the garbage, and then do checker deselect. Is that going to work, or is it going to end up... Well, it does give us a full checker. So if we then unwrap, what we end up with is cubes like this. I can't get it to unwrap. I can't get it to just unwrap one by one. So that means that if I wanted to do this right, I would have to individually go through and unwrap each of these, which is kind of an annoying task. And they're not going to end up the same either way. So that's a shame. Wait, I think I saw some... No, that didn't do anything. All right. I think this is as good as we're going to get, which is a little bit of a shame, but we can use some mirroring to make it work, I think. Either way, let's save this, go back over into Unity, and it should vanish because it's a new mesh. So this part should now be empty, a clear strip. There, see? And what we'll do is we'll just select that military hull, the lens perhaps, duplicate it, and switch out the mesh for the military hull front. There we go. Obviously this glass material is not what we want, so we'll go over into the material and select something else. The hull itself uses Prox Hull. So if we were to use Prox Hull on this as well, we'll call this front. If we use Prox Hull here as well, we can get a feeling for how it should look. But the problem is that we don't actually want to use Prox Hull because it doesn't have any texture. You can see how the texture has been turned off. If we were going to use something with a texture, it would be like this, and it would be like, boom. But this is not a very good material for this due to its flaws at length. So what we're really going to want to do is use Prox Hull, duplicate it, and call it Prox Hull Textured, and add a texture to it so that it works. So we'll just grab a texture. Just for the sake of testing, we've got some defaults built in. So we'll just grab one of those, if I can find them. Force shield pattern. Don't know where I got that. But this is a nice repetitive one. Since this is a nice repetitive one, I bet I could get it to work. So if we go back here and I go in here again and I once again unwrap, but I use Smart UV Project this time, we're going to get these nice arcs. I can also use Project from View Bounds to get a nice circle. And if I do that, then the regularity of this will help. And I should get some spider-like webbing all across it. There. And then, of course, I can increase the tiling to, say, 30-30. And what we end up with is this aggressive tiling all across this front band. But the colors are exactly backwards from what I actually want. So what I really need is this texture, but with the black and white inverted. I'm not even sure. I must have built it, but I don't remember building it. You know what? I could make it the normal, but I don't think there is any normal map. I don't think this material type has a normal map. No, it doesn't. So if I'd use this, this is, oh, I put in the wrong material. I accidentally clicked on something else. I really think that is probably the best option. I just need to change the coloration. I just need to invert the coloration. So where was it? Here's some generic checkers. It started to rain. Hooray! Just hit Control Z a couple more times. There we are. So it's this guy, force shield pattern. We're going to go ahead and pop that open. No. Hold on a minute. I got to arrange this. What a pain in the ass. Doop. Okay, so for some reason that opened in an old version of Clip Studio. Wow, that's pretty special. You would think it would open in the most recent version, and it does if Clip Studio is open. That's interesting. So let's go ahead and save this as a new inverted pattern. And I can just run a tonal correction reverse gradient and hit save. There we are. Done and done. And so if I grab this, I can just drop that in. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we are. And now what I've got is just hex marks. Let's go ahead and see how that looks before we do anything or say anything. Oh, sorry, I forgot to bring you back with the stream. There we go. Phoenix Wright was having fun there. So you can see how we have some hexes. They're not really as nicely oriented as I'd like. What I really need is this outer hull area to be arranged in a very different manner, because right now it's not arranged correctly. And another problem we've got is that the brake is actually not the same material, and so it ends up looking different. So what we're going to do is go back in here, and I can't figure out any way to tell this to treat every single box as if it's rigidly vertical all the way around in a rotation. That's not something that I know anything about having it do, but I do know something about just changing this material. So if we smart UV project this like so, we're going to get some garbage, and that should be fine. So we're going to save that, and we're going to go back over here, and we're going to drop the patterned element onto it, and I might have to adjust the UV mapping to have the same material work out. Now, obviously, the best solution would be to create custom materials with custom textures, but that sounds like work. Yeah, so you can see how this is much, much denser. So we're going to go ahead and create another material because I don't feel like remodeling the UV map texture bigger. And all we're going to do is drop that one in. That's odd. What's going on here? These should be literally the same texture. Oh, there's like a bunch of stuff going on here. So it looks like there might have been other textures associated with the crack, and what I've just done is overwrite some of them. We'll have to figure that out in a minute. I can always change it. But this bigger texture, we're just going to reduce the tiling until it seems like it would fit, more or less. And you can see how it sort of fits, but it's definitely a noticeable crack. Now, obviously, if we wanted to, we could have this work out in a couple of different ways. One of the methods we can use is if we rotate our view like this, and we look at it like this, I can use an unwrap, project from view, and then I can go to the other guy and use the same unwrap, project from view. And what that'll do is it'll sync up both of those into the same UV space. And it'll look bad from certain angles, and that's not too upsetting because you're not going to fly around very much. But you can see how we now have the wrong material again. So what we really need to do is put this back in, and I think it's that one. Yep. So you can see we're going to just drop in the interior on the others and the machinery. I'm not sure which is which, but that's fine. So you can see that here there's no longer any obvious line where it begins to rupture. The mesh is still the same mesh throughout, but there is an obvious line here where it remains this checkerboard pattern while the rest of the mesh does not. So what we're going to do is we're going to split it so that the mesh past that point is not the same material, or rather the mesh before that point is the material we would like. And so if we try to select it, it's going to be a little bit difficult just due to the nature of the topology of the region. But basically we'll start here and we'll just hit plus a bunch. Yep, there we are. And then over here we've got some extras that we don't need. Just deselect them. There we go. And that can be assigned to a different mesh. So we've got machinery, we've got heavy hull, and I don't really know where is where. I think that this is all assigned to heavy hull, and there's no assignments to anything else. I don't see any other assignments, so we're going to go ahead and assign that to just standard hull. And the hull, yeah. So there's really no other uses, but that should be fine. We'll go ahead and save there. And once we go back here, we'll see that this pattern is inverted, and we'll have to flip it around a little bit. It's no biggie. Just drop this here and this here. Oh, the wrong one. This here and this here. It's not prox hull. I thought it was prox hull. What is this then? This is prox hull, right? Prox hull, machinery, and hull. And maybe it's hull that I need. Let's go ahead and try it. Materials. If we drop prox hull onto the main object here. Okay, so it's just misplaced. That's fine. So we're going to drop prox hull in where prox machinery currently is. There we go. And that should be reasonable. Let's go ahead and see how it looks. All right, so now we've got some decoration. I wouldn't call it groundbreaking, but at least it exists. What we can do is we can add a ridge or something if we would like to make that edge between the two feel a little bit less obnoxious. But here you can see how it's a little bit better in terms of how you get in, but because of the density of this, it's not dense enough. They begin to pixelate as you get too close. So if we decide we want to do that, we're going to need to take this prox hull texture, delete that, and then this will be like 80. But we need to have a little band around the outside, and so that's what we'll model right now. And to do that, we'll just grab the outside like that, and we will just go ahead and punch it out like that. and create a new item. There we are. And then this, what we'll do is we'll add in a skin modifier, and we'll adjust it so that it's not nearly so obnoxious, which I think we can do by Control I. I can't remember how to adjust the thickness of the skin here. Shoot, I have to look it up. I think it's something basic, but I always forget. Skin modifier blender change node radii. Skin resize, Control A. Okay, so if we, I'm in the wrong unit there. Here we are. So if we go in here and we select all and we hit Control A, we can scale it down until it is, you know, thin enough that it makes sense. There we go, something like that. Maybe that's even a little bit big. Let's go ahead and Control A. I can't. Oh, there we are. Just keep adjusting it down. Oh, I'm hitting Control Shift A. That's the problem. There we go. And now what I can do is I can actually extrude this and have it cover that breach a little bit, which I think would be a nice touch. So let's go ahead and try it. There we are. So now what I can do is apply that modifier, and then we can go ahead and unwrap it. And you might notice that it's, well, that's interesting. That's what I wanted the outer edge to do, the outer element to do. So right now what we've got is a whole bunch of repeating tiles, which is exactly what I was hoping to get from here, but I couldn't get it. That's really interesting. Is it because... No. Why did this do what I wanted the other one to do? Oh, that's fascinating. Either way, we're just going to recombine them, so... if we take a look at the materials, you can see that we have several materials here, and this is different, so that's fine. Just save that and go back over into Unity. Where's Twitch? There's Twitch. Grind, grind, grind. And now we have a... We do not have a... Oh, there's no material attached to it. That's fine. So we'll just add in another material here. I think we need 3. Nope, just 2. And we're going to go ahead and just... take a look here. I don't see any texturing on it, even though in theory it's a Proxhol texture. Maybe only certain faces got correctly bound, but either way, we don't need it to be Proxhol. That's not going to work, though. Maybe Prox Interior? It's very bright, though. See, that's really dark. I guess the really dark version might be the best option. Let's just go ahead and take a look, see whether or not this feels even vaguely correct. It's a very dense set of meshes, but despite that, I can still see the original low poly circle. That's annoying, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. Gonna go down and try this game one more time. Let's see if we can get actually through and beat the boss. Because if I can't beat the boss, nobody can beat the boss. Or nobody will care enough to. You probably can't tell because of the lack of indicators, but I'm actually doing some aggressive piloting here to try and sneak through these tunnels, and it's my hope that that's what the player will want to do, but I'm not sure that it's clear how you're supposed to fly this thing. I said it a couple of times, but basically this flight model is intended specifically for really nice control, but I flubbed it a little bit, both in terms of explaining it and in terms of balancing it. It doesn't really feel like I have as much control as I need, especially when I get into the boss room and I'm trying to navigate these tight areas, because they are just because of the way they don't quite... trying to go to something moving is a huge pain in the butt, especially when you're going to get knocked away if you're not careful. There we are. Perfect. Now, I don't think I have enough time to actually reach the next one before this one explodes. Hooray for a lack of colliders. So it's going to reverse direction any second here. There it is, it reversed. Alright. Let's move on to the third and final unit. Oh, that one's the broken one. Let's go ahead and skip over it. This one's also the broken one. Uh-oh. It looks like the other one just exploded, but that's the one I need right there, so we're going to try and get it. I don't think we're going to manage to get it before we hit the fire alarm, though. Ooh. Things are exploding everywhere. Gotcha. And gotcha! Did I get it? I did not. Damn it. Working on this with an unupgraded ship is probably a bad idea. I should really get a feel for how it feels when you're upgraded. But I haven't, so... What? Seriously? Come on. Can I sneak in underneath? Oh no! No, crap! Well, this is the very last thing, the very last part of this boss puzzle, so it is the right time to be annoyed. I really shouldn't be chasing it this way. I should probably be chasing it the other way. It's not moving nearly as fast as it used to, but it's still hauling some serious ass. Especially if I keep triggering the fire suppression. The fire suppression is really, really much more aggressive than I expected, and that's because you have to keep changing your direction in order to... there we are. You You have to keep changing your direction in order to stay close to this surface, because it's not a flat surface. All right. So now we have to track down the exit. And basically it waits until you track down the exit before it actually does anything. So we have our, time to go and try and figure out where the exit is. Apparently I went the wrong way because this is... Oh no! Crash. Let's go ahead and back up. It's really much darker in here than I thought it would be, but there is the exit. And you can see how it's fairly obvious when you do see it. I just went like 300 degrees around without seeing it. Alright, let's get out of here. And now you've got 25 seconds until detonation, according to the voice. In actuality, I don't keep track. I just want the player to feel rushed. It's probably better if it says something like 40 seconds. 25 is a little bit unbelievable. Well, now we've got to figure out how to get forward. There it is. Yeah, because that was way more than 5 seconds. So I'll just change the numbers around because that's a little bit silly. Alright, now we should be on our way out. Yeah, that's how I want this to look. This part I like. Let's get out of here. There we are. An escape well done. And we'll have some kind of message. It'll pop something up and tell you you beat the game. But there's a couple of small details that we're going to want to fix a little bit. So we're going to do a search for boss. We've got all these boss triggers, and we're going to want to change it so that they're not quite so aggressive. This is going to say 45 seconds. And we're going to go ahead and find this one. It's going to say 20. 15 is good. But the one that says 20 seconds is going to say 25. There we are. And that should be fine. So in the next episode, we'll polish the last piece of this. It'll be on Saturday. Polish the last piece of this, put in the you win scene, and then hopefully I will publish it on Saturday. If not, it'll be next Wednesday. So I hope you stick around for it, and thanks for popping by. See you around.